When Mrs. Elena Hart walked into her classroom one crisp September morning, she didn't realize that the very decision she had made out of love would cost her everything. But in that moment, as she looked into the eyes of 30 wide-eyed fifth graders, many from low-income homes with no access to technology, she knew she had done the right thing. Elena had taught at Willow Creek Elementary for 15 years. She wasn't the loudest teacher, nor the strictest, but she was the one students returned to visit long after they moved on. Her classroom was a place where kids felt seen, valued, and inspired. But the world was changing. As technology became central to learning, she watched her students struggle to keep up, not because they weren't smart, but because they simply didn't have the tools. One evening, after school, Elena sat quietly in her small apartment, sipping lukewarm tea as she stared at her savings account. It had taken her years to build. Vacations never happened, and she drove a 15-year-old car that made a wheezing sound every morning. She had saved for peace of mind, for retirement, maybe even for the chance to finally visit Italy, a dream since childhood. But that night, as she reread the latest test results showing how far behind some of her students had fallen, she made a choice. She spent $22,000 of her own money, her entire savings, to buy refurbished laptops for every student in her class. She bought headphones, wireless mice, and even portable Wi-Fi hotspots for the kids who didn't have internet at home. She didn't tell anyone. No press release. No GoFundMe. Just quiet love and hope tucked into cardboard boxes with the names of her students written in Sharpie. When her students walked into class the next day, their jaws dropped. "Are these ours?" a small voice asked. "They are," Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. "Because I believe in you." The next few weeks were magical. Her students lit up. Assignments that once seemed impossible became exciting challenges. Parents called her, crying with gratitude. For many families, it was the first time anyone had invested in them like that. Elena had never seen her classroom so alive. But the magic didn't last. 2 months later, the school board called her in for a meeting. The tone was cold, clinical. "You bypassed district procurement procedures," they said. "You introduced unapproved technology into the curriculum." They questioned her judgment, her professionalism, even her ethics. And in the end, they told her she was terminated. Just like that. Elena left the room in silence, her heart pounding in her chest. News spread like wildfire. Parents were outraged. Students cried. But the board remained unmoved. She returned home devastated. Her life's work, gone. She sat for hours, staring at the same laptop she had used to order the computers. But then, something happened that would change everything. A student, Lila, a shy girl with a stutter who had blossomed under Elena's care, posted a TikTok video. In it, she shared the story of how Ms. Hart gave me my first computer and made me feel smart. The video ended with a simple, teary plea: she doesn't deserve to be fired. It went viral overnight. Within days, news outlets picked up the story. The teacher who gave it all read one headline. Alumni from Willow Creek, now adults, shared stories of how Elena had shaped their lives. A mother who had once been homeless with her son wrote, "Ms. Hart believed in him when no one else did. Today, he's a college freshman studying computer science." Then came the rally. Hundreds gathered outside the school district building. Parents, students, and even other teachers stood with signs reading "Bring back Ms. Hart and we stand with Elena." The story drew national attention. A prominent journalist interviewed Elena on live television. When asked why she did it, Elena simply said, "Because no child should be held back by something they can't control. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because they needed it." The public response was overwhelming. Donations poured in, not just from across the state, but from around the world. A foundation offered to fund an entire computer lab at Willow Creek, in Elena's name. Faced with immense pressure, the school board held an emergency meeting. This time, it was they who were on the defensive. After hours of deliberation, they reinstated Elena with a formal apology and a promotion. She was offered the position of Director of Student Equity and Innovation, a role created specifically to allow her to expand her vision. But Elena asked for one condition. "I'll accept," she said, standing tall before the board, "only if no child in this district ever goes without the tools they need to learn. Not on my watch." They agreed. Elena returned to school a hero, but she remained the same kind, humble teacher she'd always been. Her classroom still smelled of books and cinnamon tea, and her students still knew they were deeply loved. Her story became more than a moment. It sparked a movement. Other teachers across the country began advocating for equitable access to technology. Districts reevaluated their policies. Parents and communities began to ask harder questions. And through it all, Elena Hart kept teaching. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because every child deserves a chance. She may have lost her savings, but she gained something far more powerful, a legacy of courage, compassion, and change. And that, in the end, made all the difference.